So, you love sport. If it's foul play and dirty tactics you like, then check out The Traitors, Uncloaked.
I know it's a game of deception, but it's a game of trust. You have to get people to trust you very quickly.
I'm Ed Gamble. Join me as we discuss all the latest drama from the Traitors' Castle, with exclusive access to the banished and murdered contestants.
No!
I would have never expected him at all.
The Traitors Uncloaked. Listen only on BBC Sounds.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast. I'm McLeod, and as we record, the Premiership, like much of the country, is on ice. So during the winter break, we are looking back on the first part of the season on a club-by-club basis and publishing mid-season report cards, if you like, for all 12 top-flight teams to tell you all you need to know about where they are and how they got there. And this episode is dedicated to the side currently sitting in 10th position. That is St Johnstone.
Smith curls the ball in, Kelly comes for it, he misses it, and the ball's in the back of the net. Liam Gordon celebrates St Johnstone's first away league goal of the season.
Oh, it's a goal! It's an equaliser for St Johnstone. Unbelievable. Delivery comes in right to the 6-yard box, it's bobbling about, and then it's in, it's going to be forced in and into the back of the net. St Johnstone have scored, and Dialang Jayesimi is claiming it.
This is the Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
Well, I'm delighted to say I'm joined on today's edition of the Scottish Football Podcast by Aidan Smith, St Johnstone fan and content editor at the Herald and Glasgow Times, and David Wotherspoon, a man who is unsurpassed when it comes to success at St Johnstone, a decade at the club, winning the Scottish Cup twice and the League Cup as well. I mean, Aidan, this guy must be one of your biggest footballing heroes, for goodness sake.
Oh yeah, he's a top player, and I would say St Johnstone's greatest ever player. I think all of us fans were shocked to see him go when he did, and I think he's a player we've missed, to be honest, since he's gone. So, but no, listen, we wish David all the best, whatever he goes on to do, and I'm sure he'll be banging in goals and chopping left, right, and centre all over the shop wherever he goes. So, no, top player.
Now, we've got lots to get through with David and Aidan about St Johnstone, but firstly, let's have a quick reminder of Saint's season so far.
18 minutes to go here, and it's Ayr United who've taken the lead. As things stand, Ayr United would go top of the table and St Johnstone would go out of the League Cup.
I was raging, I wasn't happy, and I made my feelings aware to the players, but I'm looking forward to the season and hopefully it'll be a successful one.
Boyce is clean through, there's one-on-one with the keeper, he squares it, Shankland, surely! 2-0 the Hearts!
Matondo, can he finish it for Rangers? He can! And surely now that puts the game beyond St Johnstone. Oh, Manfred's got to score! He does! St Johnstone all over the place at the back.
Ultimately it's me that needs to take responsibility for this team, but I take responsibility, but it's poor, and some of them should be ashamed of their performance. Just individual errors, battling qualities, second balls, just fight. It's not good enough, it's not acceptable.
St Johnstone Football Club can announce that it has parted company with Stephen McLean and Liam Craig.
It's been, I think, around about 4 years since I was in the technical area. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, what a goal! What a goal that is by St Johnstone! As we sit, they're off the bottom of the league. St Johnstone 1, Ross County 0.
It comes back to Kane, and it's in!
Goal! It's been coming! Graham Carey, and it's a mistake by Levitt. St Johnstone 1, Hibs 0.
Any win's good, but there were some other things that were pleasing for me this evening. It's probably the best performance, but I think there's still so much more to come.
Well, some of that kind of feels like a lifetime ago. So we'll summarise St Johnstone's season up to this point in a few bullet points here. Craig Levine's team, as I said at the top, they are currently 10th in the Premiership, 19 points, 4 wins, 7 draws, 9 defeats. And the season, of course, started with that disastrous League Cup campaign. They finished 3rd in their group, defeats by Stenhousemuir, Ayr United and Stirling Albion. Of course, won 4-0 at McDermott. They didn't fare much better in the league. There were no wins in 9 under Stephen McLean, who was sacked following the 4-0 thrashing at St Mirren at the end of October. We'll get into that there with his former teammate, David, obviously. They typically won their next game 2-1 at home to Kilmarnock. That's what happens, isn't it, when the manager loses his job? Craig Levine was then appointed as the new boss, and under his stewardship, they moved off the foot of the table and they've certainly been harder to beat, enjoying wins over Ross County, St Mirren and Hibs by 1-0. David, firstly, on St Johnstone's season so far, how would you sum it up? Obviously you're looking from the outside in these days.
Yeah, obviously it was a slow start, but I feel in the past few years it has been always a slow start for St Johnstone, and they seem to pick up around Christmas time where we start to get results and start pushing up the table and catch people off guard, I guess, with our form. But they seem to have built something now that's more stable, more reliable. There's obviously a lot of players that were out injured at the start of the season that have come back and are playing their part now. And I think it took a lot of time for the players that came in, because there was a lot of change, players to come in and adapt to Scottish football and get in the rhythm of things and things like that. So I think it just took a while just to get everything right.
Aidan, as far as your expectations are concerned, I'm not sure how you felt the season was going to go before a ball was kicked, but where are they versus where you were thinking they would be at this point of the season?
I think at the start of the season there was quite a bit of excitement around the team. It was a young squad brought in, a lot of players coming from down south. It was a different kind of transfer policy than it had been in the past few years. So there was a bit of excitement around it, and obviously Steve McLean being a young manager as well, we were all hopeful that he would do well, but unfortunately it never turned out like that. At the start of the season, I think fans, it's always that thing with St Johnstone, it's safety first and foremost. That's what you're always looking for. Obviously just now we're sitting in 10th place. Things have picked up under Craig Levein. I think defensively we are a lot more solid. As you say, it's still in the final third is the issue right now. Nicky Clark, he chips in with some key goals, but his injury record's not great, so he's been in and out of the team. But I think 10th place right now, I think we need to be pretty happy with it, and hopefully Craig Levein bringing in a few of his own players, we can just start to look up rather than look down.
Yeah, we'll look ahead to the second half of the season and maybe look at the players that he has already brought in. But as far as St Johnstone's level of expectations concerned, David, I guess it was risen during your time at the club when Tommy Wright was in charge primarily, and then Callum. Obviously, there were many top six finishes. There was silverware. I mean, it's a very different thing supporting St Johnstone now than it was even 20 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the fans are just realising that now, that what an achievement we were doing over that period of time where we were finishing in the top six, we were getting to cup finals and things like that. It's just, back in the day, you were in the first division, you were fighting to get up promoted, and then you were fighting to stay in the league, whereas that sort of period that we had was just constant success. And I think we kind of got away from that with the cup double, where we thought, oh, we're invincible, and it was like the other end of it was, where do you go from there? And that was maybe the downside of it, was everyone was expecting big things the next year, in the league in particular, but things don't sort of pan out that way.
Yeah, I think until Rangers won the League Cup a few weeks ago, St Johnstone had been the second most successful club in Scottish football over the last decade. And that in itself, and it lasted for a good couple of years there, it was just a wonderful feather in the cap for what is a very well-run football club, quite clearly.
I'm quite a young St Johnstone fan. I always speak to my dad and my uncle and my brother and that, and they remind me that things weren't very good back in the day for St Johnstone. So I've been kind of fortunate, European trips, trophies, top six finishes, as you say. It's been an unbelievable few years supporting the club.
Well, let's have a little look a bit closer at St Johnstone's campaign. And obviously, David, another one of your old muckers, Stephen McLean, who it didn't matter how badly the job went as St Johnstone manager. He's another who will have legendary status at the club, given what he did as a player, particularly during that 13-14 season, going on to win the club's first ever major piece of silverware, scoring in the final against Dundee United as well. But given the results and given the way things were going, given what he had to say in that post-match interview in Paisley after the 4-0 defeat to St Mirren, was it kind of inevitable that he was going to go at that point?
I think it was frustration on his part that after that game, everything was just not going the way that you want it to. I've obviously played with Steve McLean, I've worked under him. He'll obviously go down as a legend, because he is at St Johnstone. scoring that goal in the cup final, and then obviously being the assistant as well when we win the cup double as well. So he's played a massive part in that, the club's history. Unfortunately, it didn't go quite as well. I felt like it was going to be a hard task for him going on from the end of last season. I think that sort of feeling around the club was maybe still there of how we were struggling in the league and trying to change everything so quickly and try to change the mood of everything. It would have been a tough ask for him. I know what he's like as a coach and as a manager, and he'll do really well. I'm sure he'll bounce back when he gets another job, because he's a good coach and a good guy. So I'm sure he'll do well when he does get another job.
Yeah, and obviously the man he assisted, Callum Davidson's got back in at Queen's Park. I don't know if there's an opening for him to hook up with the coaching staff there, but how do you think Callum will get on in his new role, given he was the St Johnstone double cup winning manager?
Yeah, Callum's great. I really enjoyed working under him. His training's brilliant. His enthusiasm, passion for the games is excellent, and to team up with Liam as well, who's another one just like him, just so enthusiastic about the game and just loves going into work, and it vibrates around the club. So I'm sure it'll be a good time for Queen's Park, and obviously I wish them all success and hope they do well.
Aidan, where do you think it went wrong for Stephen McLean?
I think it was a tough summer that he had to deal with the recruitment, obviously. There was a big turnover of players, so it was going to have to be a big turnaround quickly. And it was a short space of time to get things right. And I think obviously as well, with it being his first kind of job as a full-time manager in his own right, obviously things went well at the end of the previous season, keeping the club up after he took over from Callum Davidson, but then going into the next one, it just felt like almost a step too far for him. I mean, obviously as fans we were gutted as well, as we discussed. He's a club legend and we wanted him to do well, but yeah, it just didn't pan out for him. And I don't know, I think injuries as well played a huge part. As we touched on earlier, Nicky Clark and Chris Kane, they're two key strikers at the club, and they were both out injured for long periods of time during McLean's tenure this year. So yeah, it was a lot of things coming together at the one time, and just unfortunately it didn't work out for him.
He'll learn from that as well, though. He'll learn from that experience, and he'll have enjoyed the chance to be a manager and be part of it all. So I'm sure he'll learn from those mistakes or those things that he learned throughout his time there.
Yeah, I mean, some of the guys who left had been there for such a long time. They were, in with the furniture, David being one of them. And you mentioned a few of the other ones, Aidan, but you had Murray Davidson, Michael O'Halloran, guys who know the club so well. There was also Hallberg, Murphy, Baer left, and the new guys come in, and it's difficult to hit the ground running at a new club. And when you bring in so many new ones, as so many clubs in the Premiership have done, it's very difficult to expect consistency to immediately follow. Dimitar Mitov, the goalkeeper, has obviously been probably, arguably, their best signing. Is that fair, Aidan?
Yeah, I would go along with that. I think he is one of the top goalkeepers in the league anyway. I mean, I know everyone's raving about Jack Butland this season, but I think Mitov's right up there. He's a top talent, and honestly, I don't know where St Johnstone would be without him this year. He's kept them in games, especially during the first part of the campaign. And I think the club will struggle holding on to him for much longer. He's going to go on to bigger and better things at some point.
As we record this, they've signed a few new players. Kerr Smith has come in on loan. He was at Dundee United, of course, moved down south, and big things are expected of him. So it's a big few months for him. He'll want to prove what he can do and help St Johnstone move up the table. Benjamin Kimpioka has come in from AIK in Sweden, and David Kelchens has come in from Israel. You'll have high hopes for these guys, Aidan. Have you had a chance to sit down and study them and see what impact they can have on the second half of the season for Sainties?
Yeah, I've had a brief look at their records, etc., and what kind of players they are. So yeah, hopefully they can all kick on. I mean, Luke Robinson was a huge player for us. He's gone away back down south to Wigan. They recalled him this January, so losing him was a big blow. But hopefully, Kerr Smith, we all saw what he was capable of when he burst through the scene at Dundee United. So hopefully he can come to McDermott and show what he's all about. He's gained, valuable experience down at Villa now, so hopefully he can come back up to Scotland and show what he's all about. And the other two, they're a wee bit more of unknown qualities, but hopefully they can come in and help to push Saints up the table, hopefully.
This is the Scottish Football Podcast.
So let's have a look at what may or may not happen for St Johnstone in the course of the next few months up until May. Just looking back at their record before we do that, they've managed to win 3 of Craig Leveing's 10 games. They've won 4 of their last 11 if you include the one just before he came in. They only won once in their opening 13 in all competitions. So that, David, immediately tells you that they are in a better place than where they were, which surely gives the St Johnstone fans hope that they can kick on from here so they can look up the table rather than over their shoulder.
Yeah, I think they've certainly started to pull some results together. They've been more resilient, more stuffy, hard to beat, and they're certainly pulling out points at the last minute, but also that bit of quality like Graham Carey that can provide. He scored some terrific goals for them recently and set up plenty as well. So he's their main attacking threat. So when he's not on the pitch, sometimes it's hard for them. But I think they've built relationships now around the squad. What it looks like on the pitch, they're starting to build these relationships with players that have just come in, players that are coming back from injury. They're starting to gel more as a squad, and obviously adding new additions. They'll need time again just to integrate them into the team as well. So the sort of break, if they can get them in before the games, they can certainly try and do that.
I think it's a huge positive as well that the club have acted quickly and got these 3 guys in right early in the window. You know, Saints have been guilty in the past of waiting until the last minute, and you know they're hunting about for players to bring in who are maybe not the best. So hopefully, you know, this is a sign of things to come. The board are looking forward, and I think Craig Leveing will be a big part of that as well. You know, he'll be wanting to get players in. He'll have his list of players he wants, and I think it's good going forward.
Yeah, David, how important was it that they got the appointment correct here, and was it important that it was someone with experience that Craig Leveing has in spades that they took in to replace your old teammate Stephen McLean?
Yeah, I think that experience of the Premiership management was certainly one that was needed, and I think he brings that level of experience to everyone involved with the club to pull them up and drag them through. But I think he's had plenty of experience in the past with other clubs that he's maybe struggled with, but also done well with other clubs. So he's certainly someone that's going to put his stamp on things and try and improve St Johnstone as much as he can.
Right then, prediction time. Aidan, what are you thinking? Where are Saints going to finish the campaign?
Well, I think Craig Leveing said himself when he came in, you know, the initial target is obviously to remain in the division. That's a big one. But, you know, he's a guy who's been there and done it at the very top. So he'll, you know, want to push the club on to bigger and better things. So, you know, hopefully this season, the main target is, as we say, stay in the division, stay up. And then hopefully, you know, with Leveing and Andy Kirk there, it's going to be a good setup moving forward. And then we can start to look up top 6 again. Hopefully, as I say, I'm used to it as a young Saints fan. It's been top 6 finishes all the time. So, yeah, hopefully we can return into there at some point.
Something chilling has just struck me, actually. And I know both clubs will be keen to avoid this. But if St Johnstone fall into the relegation playoff position and Dundee United don't win the title, pipped by Wraith Rovers, and you've got David Wotherspoon, club legend, most successful player in St Johnstone's history, trying to relegate them right at the end of this season.
Written
Scary.
in the stars, isn't it?
There's every possibility.
I'm not sure it's the stars. Listen, I won't get David to comment on that. That's going way too far down the rabbit hole at this point. Listen, guys, thank you very much for joining us on the Scottish Football Podcast. I must say, St Johnstone looking to get over their first hurdle in the Scottish Cup for the first time since winning it in 2021 when they go into the Cup action. Then, of course, we'll have full coverage of it. They've got a tricky looking tie against the Airdrieonians at the Championship in the Scottish Cup 4th round. But it's another one of these ties that we're really looking forward to, and we're looking forward to the second half of the season, and we'll look forward to seeing how St Johnstone fare and how David Wotherspoon gets on at Dundee United. Listen, guys, thank you very much. We will, of course, have more on the Scottish Football Podcast during our winter break as we wait for the Premiership to come back. David Wotherspoon and Aidan Smith, thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Remember to subscribe, and we'll be back with another Scottish Football Podcast very soon.
Hi, it's Amy Irons here. I just wanted to tell you that Sacked in the Morning is back for a new series. We are your survival guide to football management. If you want to hear exactly what goes on in the dugouts and dressing rooms across the world, then we are the pod for you. And as ever, I'll be joined by former Scotland gaffer Craig Levein and some of football's best managers to provide all the insight you could possibly need. And you can find it on BBC Sounds. Just search for Sacked in the Morning.